Hi gang, it's Monday, and that means it's Jazz Day on Waxing On. And today we're going to start looking at a number of different artists who were on Creed Taylor's roster. He produced a number of albums in the early 1970s for his own record label, Creed Taylor Records. And he was taking emerging jazz artists, supporting them with a lot of local East Coast session players, and putting the music in the context that was more accessible for people like myself that had grown up with rock and roll. At this point in time, I was just a young trumpet player. I was starting to learn the instrument, interested in branching out into different forms of music, thinking of jazz. But these albums kind of took a jazz idea and put it in a rock context that, again, was very accessible for somebody like myself. One of the early albums I bought was one by Eumir Deodato on Creed Taylor's records, and it's called Prelude. Now, the big hit off this album was a tune by Strauss, the also Sprach Zarathustra, the theme song for 2001. And Deodato had a pretty big hit with that. Now, this also kind of set the tone with some of the things that Creed Taylor would do. He would take classical recordings and rework them to fit into this format. Now, this album had another one, Debussy's Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun, and a number of other songs were arrangements or compositions by Deodato. But certainly, the cornerstone of this album was the 2001 theme. Now, he was also using a lot of local session musicians and a lot of jazz players. On this album, we got Deodato playing electric piano. Electric guitar was John Tropia. Bass, we had Ron Carter on bass and Stanley Clarke on electric bass. Drums was Billy Cobham, who we talked about a few weeks ago. Trumpet section, John Frost, Marvin Stamm, who did the solo on the Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun. Marky Markowitz and Joe Shepley. Trombone section, Wayne Andre, Garnet Brown, and Bill Watrous played on this one as well. And flute section, Hubert Laws, who also recorded sides of his own for Creed Taylor. We also had violin, viola, cello, a string section in there. And what was nice with these albums, always double albums. So you got lots of information on the inside about who was playing, where it was recorded, any other information about the songs. And that was what I loved about albums. I mean, when you were listening, you had a lot of information. It was fun to read the album jacket to find out who was playing, where you recorded, who did the producing. I really look forward to that, and I miss that with digital. We really don't get that background information. Now, the second album, also on Creed Taylor, kind of continued in the same format. This was Deodato 2. We've got songs by George Gershwin, Rhapsody in Blue, The Pavane for a Dead Princess, Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin, which to me again was the cornerstone of this album, and songs by Deodato. Now, what I did find kind of unfortunate was he had some great ones. The first one, also Sprach Zarathustra, Nights in White Satin. Some of Deodato's stuff was not familiar, and I maybe wasn't listening to it with the right ears. I was kind of hooking into the popular songs that I recognized, those arrangements, and maybe not giving Deodato enough credit at that time for what he was writing, but he was doing a great job. Now, on this one, we've changed up our session players a little bit. We've added a few more people from the New York area. Again, we got Stanley Clarke back on bass. We got Billy Cobham on drums, John Tropia. The trumpet section now includes John Faddis, Victor Paz, Alan Rubin, Joe Shepley, and Marvin Stamm. I mean, this is a great trumpet section. Trombones, Wayne Andre and Garnet Brown, Tony Studd on bass trombone. We've added baritone saxophone. That was one of the few times we had saxophones in here. And again, a very long viola, violin, cello section. Now, and Hubert Laws back here again too. So he was not only recording his own albums, but he was playing a lot of session work on the Creed Taylor albums. This is something else that was fun with these albums. And these are nice glossy covered album covers. And it said here, you can get a same-size reproduction of the cover without type, available for $1.50. Reproduction will be on fine quality paper and suitable for framing. So Creed Taylor was offering you a chance to get these album covers, you know, to kind of decorate your house with, or your den area. So just something that was kind of a little extra he was throwing in. Now, the third album I got, he had left Creed Taylor's Records, and he was recording for MCA. And some of the same kind of style. On here, a lot more written by Deodato. A couple of songs that were not his. Theme from Star Trek. Yeah, I mean, Maynard had already done this kind of thing. It really wasn't new at this point. I Shot the Sheriff by Bob Marley. And to me, again, the one that kind of stood out as the cornerstone for Very Together was Theme from Peter Gunn. Now, he's got some regular players on here, and Will Lee appears playing bass this time. Now, Will Lee, you may remember, we mentioned during the Billy Cobham Brecker Brothers video. He was one of the Brecker Brothers musicians, and also played bass on David Letterman's show for years. Now, in the studio side, here's what we're looking at. Okay, we've got trumpets. Marvin Stamm's back. John Faddis is back. We've added Alan Rubin, a fantastic trumpet player. We talked about him. He had played on the second Blood, Sweat and Tears album. He played with the Blues Brothers. He played on Saturday Night Live. Just an excellent trumpet player. And John Gatchell, who I think we mentioned as well, being with Bill Watrous. Trombone section, Wayne Andre, Sam Burtis, and of course, Tom Malone. I know you're wondering, here we are in New York. We got session players out there. Where's Tom Malone? Because, I mean, he plays with everybody. He made it on this album. On Very Together, Tom Malone is playing trombone. And flutes, Hubert Laws again. Some very excellent albums. Again, as a young trumpet player coming up, it was great to hear this stuff. It was great to hear the music in a format that was a little more accessible to me. I mean, this wasn't traditional jazz. This wasn't Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. It wasn't Dizzy Gillespie. It was something a little different. And it wasn't maybe true jazz in that same sense, but it was something that got people interested in the music. And again, there were good jazz players on here. I mean, we got Ron Carter, we got Billy Cobham, we've got Hubert Laws. We got some great players. And they certainly made something that was very appealing, very much accessible to everybody, and got people involved in the music. And I have to say, some of Creed Taylor's albums were one of my favorites. He did a great job putting these albums together, showcasing the talent, and I loved all the session guys he had on there with him. So if you get a chance, check them out. They are on the streaming networks. Give it a listen. I know we haven't heard much from Deodato in years, and again, this was maybe not a familiar name to a lot of you. Certainly the names of players on the albums should be well familiar, but give them a chance. Give them a listen. See what you think. We'll see you on Wednesday. Everybody stay home, stay safe, and have a great week.